Give it a few minutes before people come in the building. Give it a few more minutes because we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Before I, show out and give the intro.
You live on Big O. Let's see
Yes, I am live on Big
this.
O. Yes, I'm actually sharing it at this moment too.
Yeah, same here. Hold up, I'm just share this
All
on my
right,
Instagram.
so we got three people in here. Let's get this thing rolling. What is going on, everybody? What is going on? We're back. We're back in full effect, y'all. Sorry for technical difficulties. I had not do a video or a Q&A in so long, but I am your host, Darion. I have my two special co-hosts here. Have Eli and Enrique. What is going on, fellas?
What's going on? What's going on? How you doing?
What up, Raiders? I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, he's been waiting for it because he was so excited to be a part of it. What's going on, Princess, over there on Big O? Shout out to everybody that's on Facebook. Shout out to everybody that is on YouTube as well. But we are here with another live show. How y'all feeling about y'all? How y'all see any Raiders news lately? How y'all feel about the Raiders news that's been coming out lately?
Man, there's been some news. There's some movement on the roster. We're signing some guys where the secondary's changing over. It's a little bit different than what we were talking about last week, but that's big news. Obviously there's some NFL news that's coming out too with the expansion. I guess the expansion would be the word of the Rooney Rule, or the changing of the Rooney Rule, and also the good news that it looks like some states are starting to be into the idea of football and professional sports playing without fans. So some good positive stuff along with some other kind of weird stuff. But yeah, news. How about you, Enrique?
The NFL ain't gonna be the same this season because no fans are gonna be here. I'm gonna be missing the roar of the crowd this season. Like our first year in Vegas, this is gonna be sad, yo. I really wished fans could show up to the arena in Vegas. I sure hope so. Like I hope that'll happen this season. We'll see what happens.
Same here. Same here. I'm kind of disappointed in that, but you just never know. Things might just happen. Shout out to Yo SMIG. Shout out to Vince. Epic booty clappers. Okay. Realist 213. What's going on? Iverson Vlogs. What's going on? Cardell Crew. What's going on? But we're going to get straight to the nitty gritty with the topics, y'all, because these topics has been something that we really wanted to talk about. Let me pull it up on my end here as far as the notes go. So, first topic of the day, and I think this is a perfect freaking topic, and I say why, because I think it's three reasons why the Las Vegas Raiders should make the playoffs. What's going on, Watts Raider? What's going on, Uncle Joe? What's going on? What's going on, Caleb over there? Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate it. But three reasons why. I don't know if y'all have it up as well, but three reasons why the Las Vegas Raiders will make the playoffs. Now, we knew the Raiders made a big jump in 2019, going from being 4-12 to 7-9, despite a very tough schedule with a lot of injuries as well. But I feel like it's a possibility that the Raiders can actually make the playoffs. Now, the first reason why we would make the playoffs is the upgrade at linebacker, knowing that we did have one of the worst positions in that group last season, and having massive additions in the offseason with the Las Vegas Raiders getting Nick Kowalski, getting rid of Tahir Whitehead, and, getting Corey Littleton. And we just never know. The undrafted free agent Javin White from UNLV might be another cat that could be a part of that linebacker position, even with Tanner Muse as well. So, how do y'all feel about this situation? Do you feel like that is one of the reasons why we can make the playoffs, knowing that we upgraded the linebacker position?
Eli, if I could go first for this one,
Sure,
if I will.
sure, head, go ahead.
I'm so excited for this season. We were the worst defensive team for who knows how long, and we made some huge upgrades this offseason. We were horrible at linebacker. We were horrible at corner. We didn't have a good offensive line to protect Derek Carr, which is why we didn't score a lot. And look at our team now. This is a team that shall make the playoffs. Look, with how many teams are increased of making the playoffs, this is the year that we show our doubters wrong and we shall make the playoffs. Now, the the prediction video I'm going to share with you later on, Darren, I said that we're going to be 11-5. We're going to make the wild card game and we will have home field advantage and we will win the wild card game, but we will end up losing in round one. I'm excited for this. Eli, let me hear you.
Well, I think that as far as the linebacking core getting us to the playoffs, there can't be a worse position group on the team last year. Maybe wide receiver, but as far as the improvements being made, linebacker was one of the things that the Raiders just needed to get better at. And having arguably the worst linebacking core in the NFL, now you have at the very least quality starters as your top two linebackers. And again, I know that a lot of people are talking about this. Remember, the Raiders do run, I think 60+% of the time they run only two linebackers. So your starting two linebackers, Kwiatkowski and Littleton, are two solid linebackers, if not Littleton being one of the better coverage linebackers. So I would say that if you're saying that this defense that's been so porous in the back end for the last, I don't know, decades, is finally upgrading that position with people that potentially could make be Pro Bowl worthy in Littleton. I think that that's going to be one of the biggest reasons, if they can play to their abilities, that the Raiders do make the playoffs. I agree.
I definitely agree that this was an upgrade. The reason why the Raiders will make the playoffs, knowing that linebacker was our weak position on the defensive side, but at the same time, we have weaknesses on the offensive side as well. But I feel like our defense at the linebacker position, I think we have a bunch of leaders. I think Corey Littleton is a veteran, but he's a young veteran, so is Kowalski. And then, they're going to bring down some of them younger linebackers in Tanner Muse and Javin White if he makes the team. And Watch Raiders said we spent $18 million on linebackers, which is not bad, knowing how many teams in the league are spending more money than $18 million. We spent $18 million on two players. Not each, but like in separate, just like together as a whole. I don't mind doing that. I wouldn't mind doing that.
But look at how that changes the dynamic of this defense more so than in other years where they've just kind of put Band-Aids on it. I mean, say what you want about Burfict being, leading the defense last year. That wasn't the answer, right? He wasn't the answer at linebacker. The years and years where they've just kind of used stopgaps and 5th and 6th round picks and tried to plug them into the linebacking position, that's gotten you just terrible linebacking play. So these linebackers are actually starting quality linebackers. They went out, they paid for them, and let's hope that they get their money's worth. And if they do, this is a different defense.
Absolutely, and that's where it really starts, because the linebackers are the quarterbacks of the defense. That's absolutely true. So the second reason, the Raiders the Raiders will make the playoffs this year is year two for a special draft class. Now, knowing that the Raiders went out and got Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell, Hunter Renfrow, Trayvon Mullen, Jonathan Abram to step up in year two. Now, Renfrow and Mullen had really started to come around at the end of the last season. And, Renfrow ended up being one of the star players on that offense, knowing when Tyrell Williams went down. And Josh Jacobs had one hell of a year at running back. So definitely we don't want to see, that sophomore slump, which I won't think we will see. But our biggest piece on defense is definitely got to be Jonathan Abram. our first round pick. He got up, he only played one game last season, so hopefully we can have him for more than one game this season. So, how do y'all feel about that? How y'all feel about that? Thinking that year two players is going to be one of those reasons why we'll make the playoffs.
I mean, right now, as you saw last year, I mean, that's you're talking about the pretty much the cornerstone of of our team, the core players of our team on both offense and defense. So if these guys can take a step, and when I'm saying these guys, obviously, I mean not just Abram, who really hasn't played, but the Trayvon Mullins taking a step to be a legitimate starting cornerback. Even Max Crosby taking a step to continue pushing the pocket and continue to getting better as an all-around defensive end. Cleveland Farrell to actually becoming the defensive player that they expected him to be, and obviously Josh Jacobs to continue his great performance and stay healthy and help this offense be all it can be. These are some of the better players already on the Raiders roster, and your best players always need to perform at their best. So, I mean, if these guys play well, that bodes well for the Raiders. Enrique?
Eli, I couldn't agree with you a lot more. Like, I cannot wait to see my man Josh Jacobs perform in his second season in the NFL. And I cannot wait to see how this new defense is for this season. Remember, like I said, our linebacker and corner was the worst in football. And with the free agency and the draft that we had, looking at what our second year players and our first players will play, I don't know what to say. This is the year where we prove all the haters wrong.
I think our team is very, very young, and I think that we're going to grow up very, very soon because those second year players got to be leaders for those rookies that's coming in. They had that 1 year rookie, they had to get those butterflies out of their stomach. They had to, they had to learn from other veterans that came right before them. So I think they're going to be more of more leaders to get these new draftees that just came in prepared. Watch Raider did say Isaiah Johnson. Yeah, I totally forgot about Isaiah Johnson. It's just something about him. I can't wait to see him on the field. I just want to see him put in the work and help this cornerback core out. But I really think that they're going to play a big factor. They will play a big factor in trying to get us to the playoffs. That's Jacobs, Renfro. Renfro was one of the more sleeper picks out of the draft last year. One of the most sleeper picks that he fell to us late in those rounds. And he definitely showed why he should have been higher. And we probably would have got him higher too. So that's just how I see it there. So
Well, I mean, and not to interrupt, but also I think you hit the nail on the head right there when you said leaders. You're looking at players already pointing at Jonathan Abram and coaches already talking about Jonathan Abram as an alpha dog leader of this defense. And he really hasn't played all that much. And so if he can become a leader and not just his performance on the field, but his tone setting and his ability. I mean, we talked about that last week, and we talked about all these young defensive backs, and we'll continue to talk about that this week. But the Isaiah Johnsons, the Trayvon Mullins, Jonathan Abram, you very well could be looking at 3 starting defensive backs from last year's draft. So the better that they play, that's where the Raiders go. If these guys can step up and ball out and everyone takes a step forward in their development and actually plays a little bit better, you're looking at a really good team next year that could vie for a division title if everybody takes that step.
absolutely. I absolutely agree with you there because I feel like with the leadership that they bring, they give them the experiences. What was it like to be a rookie playing 17 games, how much of a body, how your body takes a toll in trying to learn the NFL speed instead of the college speed. So that's why I feel like with, those draftees from last year is going to coach him up, especially Josh Jacobs. He got his guy, Henry Ruggs. They both from Alabama, but, I don't think he's going to try to exclude them out because they're Alabama players. But, these players, especially some of the veterans that have been there before, our rookies from last year, they're going to step up and definitely be veterans. And speaking of the third reason is Derek Carr's arsenal of weapons. This is a big one. So Derek Carr didn't have too many weapons, honestly. Knowing he did have Darren Waller, but Darren Waller was, you might almost say, was the number one receiver outside of Hunter Renfro because Tyrell Williams was not healthy. But hopefully Tyrell Williams can definitely step up this year, knowing that we do have the Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfro, the Brian Edwards. Lynn Bowden Jr. is going to come in and help out in the passing game as a running back. So it's a few wide receivers out there that we do have. In his arsenal, it should be no excuse for Derek Carr in his arsenal. How do y'all feel about this? Is you think this will be one of the reasons that we make it to the playoffs, knowing that we do have that arsenal to help Derek Carr out?
Well, let me say this. Last season, our receivers, like Terrell Williams, he couldn't stay healthy. The rest of our receivers couldn't catch the ball on the goal line where it's needed the most. And now we have Henry Ruggs, Brian Edwards, Lynn Bowden, and we also got these tight ends. Like, for sure, Jason Wynn is going to be unstoppable at the goal line. That was something that we needed last year. And so, you're right, Darren. There is no excuse for Derek Carr this season. This is the year that Derek Carr has to show the haters wrong and make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about Derek Carr a little bit too later in the show, as you know, I'm sure we will week after week after week, seeing that he's the most polarizing subject in the history of the Raiders, it seems. But yeah, I mean, honestly, he does. I mean, you know, and there's what's not to be excited about it. On paper, you look at some of these guys, even if one of these new wide receivers or, you know, rookies makes a serious impact, which I'm expecting, you know, Ruggs to definitely do that. And hopefully Bowden and Edwards can also contribute. But, you know, Enrique, you said, you know, Jason Witten, I think that people are really starting to come on to how important that signing is when it comes to getting those third and shorts, getting those touchdowns on those goal line situations. Those points that we just didn't get and left on the field, that's where he's going to come in. And I think that weapon might be the most important of them all when it comes down to it as far as new toys. But yeah, as you guys said, Derek Carr has no excuses this year, and he should be able to utilize all these weapons and get the Raiders into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think this Arsenal was no excuse, knowing that we did go out and get some veterans at tight end, and we went out and got some other wide receivers in free agency as well to go with a mixture of the draftees that we did have. So Derek Carr have to show up and play ball, but John Gruden's gonna have to make it creative for him because every different wide receiver has different traits, and certain packages is gonna have to go in that way. For like Brian Edwards, you gotta throw the deep ball to him, or Henry Ruggs yards after the catch on some screens, or you have, you know, surprisingly Nelson Aguilar could come in on some third down situations. You just don't know. So I think it comes off of just his arsenal, but how creative the offense can be. Keep it simplified, but make it creative as well, and try to throw the defense off sometimes with some wrinkles and stuff like that.
Totally.
All right, so let's get into the next topic here. And that next topic, let's get into it, will be Amik Robinson is ready to prove the doubters wrong. Now, I really wanted to talk about this because Amik Robinson had a lot, you know, he's getting a lot of criticism knowing that he had his groin injury. He got drafted so late, and they feel as though, who knows, that he's undersized. He's a fourth rounder. He said he's coming in with a massive chip on his shoulder. He has the speed. He has the production. He's a top level defensive back in my position. In my point of view, even though that he's 5'8", 187 pounds, he's small. But you see a lot of small cornerbacks actually do well in this league, especially if you're playing outside of the corner or playing the slot corner. A lot of corners is not that big in the league. So to get Amik Robinson, knowing what type of caliber, type of swag that he comes with, here is a quote that he said According to justballbaby.com, he said, I've been doubted my whole life, that whole process. I wasn't in control of nothing. It was just a waiting game. When I saw the guys I knew that was better than getting picked over me, I didn't understand. I had so much anger built up, but I also was relieved. It was like, okay, I got a shot that I wanted, and I would carry the moment for the rest of his career. I don't want to ever want to feel that as low as I did before the call. I felt like I was at my lowest, and John Gruden gave me the call, and it was everything. And then he says that I got a point to prove to be legendary. I want to be a starter. I don't just want to be an impact player. I want to be a starter, impact player, and win games and win a Super Bowl and be one of the best defensive backs that ever came through the Raiders organization. That is some big, bold statements, man. How do y'all feel about what this guy just said? Because I am excited of what he just said. I'm stoked. I'm stoked.
Eli,
So,
if I could go first on this one, if I will.
Of course.
Now, if for those that saw my video on Spotlight Sports Network talking about our draft picks, you know I'm one of those doubters, saying that I didn't feel right of the Raiders picking Emmett Robinson because of his injury. He just had surgery. But his statement putting out that he wants to win, he wants to be a starter, I hope and I pray that he proves me wrong. I want to see this guy produce big time. Al Davis would be so proud of this guy. Seeing that he says that he's going to be the starter, Al Davis is going to look downright at him. If Emmett Robinson becomes starter, I don't know how proud Al Davis will be.
I mean, I'm sure he would be stoked. He seems like an Al Davis type player and a John Gruden type player for sure. We don't have to look any further than who the Raiders just let go of in Nick Nelson this week to know that John Gruden talks up a lot of his defensive backs and his players, and he should. He should be the number one rah-rah cheerleader for all of his players, and I think that he's full of hyperbole when he talks about them, and I think we all get that. John Gruden's really excited about this guy. A lot of people are really excited about this guy. I said last week that I don't think he's going to step out and immediately blow everybody away and just take over and be a starting cornerback in the slot just yet. But I do think that he is going to be he's going to be beneficial to this team, and he's going to be a quality player for the Raiders in his career. And, potentially that means playing a lot of snaps and getting some key turnovers and really making a statement on the field with some hits throughout this year and the years to come. He is a little undersized, and he's going to have to work a lot harder to overcompensate for that. He seems like the kind of guy that is going to work hard, and so it should translate on the field. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I hope he can, prove doubters wrong. I don't think he has a lot of doubters. I think that he's going to be a solid player. I don't think he's not going to make it, but we'll have to see once pads get put on.
and I have to agree. I have to see what pads get on, but I just love his determination and his drive that he wants to remain a Raider regardless of his injury, regardless what he goes through. He's going to take the opportunity. He's going to take advantage of the opportunity. I just feel like with him, he has a chip on his shoulder because he feels though he probably was one of the best corners in the draft. Outside of everybody that got every other corner that got picked over him, even the Damon Arnett. I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and I think the swag that he brings when he plays is going to show why, y'all people should have drafted him earlier.
His Pro Football Focus grades, I think I sent you that one link. They're off the charts on pretty much every single category you can grade, whether it's throws under pressure, throws in zone, throws in man, and that's awesome. And we've already discussed kind of his level of competition at Louisiana, but still, I don't think that anyone should be disappointed that this guy doesn't step on the field week one and is a total difference maker. I think the same for Arnett. I don't think anyone should be disappointed if he's not week one difference maker at the cornerback position. These guys are young. It's a weird offseason. I think he's going to be a quality player. I think they're all going to be quality players. They're just going to need some time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely can agree there. Yeah, he's definitely gonna need some time. So let's get straight into the next topic. Another Derek Carr topic. According to Raiders News, according to JustBallBaby.com, it says Derek Carr listed among dark horse NFL MVP candidates. Now, NFL.com Adam Shahan listed 9 players he feels are a dark horse MVP candidate in 2020, meaning that is unsurprisingly Las Vegas Raider Derek Carr on the list, meaning that Derek Carr is entering what may be the year that he would define the rest of his career. If he rises to the occasion, he definitely could bring the Raiders into the playoffs, and he could be likely the franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. Now, but if he slips and unable to, you know, able to get the silver and black back to the playoffs in their first year in Las Vegas, then the Raiders were probably going to make that chance to replace him or get ready for Marcus Mariota to take over. But I don't see that happening. I think Carr been unquestioned starter since a rookie year in 2014. He did become incredibly, diverse, and he definitely been one of the main talks of the Raider Nation, in my personal opinion. Now, Derek Carr, and I'm going to just go first on this. Now, Derek Carr definitely can be a actual MVP candidate, in my opinion. But here are the others that they put on this list that could be a dark horse MVP candidate. Derek Carr was fourth on the list behind Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Ezekiel Elliott. So this is what Carr had to say. He said that I was honored to be a part of the Carr Six and a half dozen AP voters who entered Derek's name on the MVP ballot in 2016. He was superb. He said he was superb that season before breaking his leg in Oakland on Christmas Eve when, and a devastating injury prevented the 12-4 Raiders from realizing their potential in the postseason. He says, I know it has it in him. Honestly, he feels like Carr is more, he could do more. What he could help the Raiders get to the next level is what he's saying. Carr knows that this is a critical year with Marcus Mariota now breathing down his neck. I don't think he's breathing down his neck, but that's just my personal opinion. I think the former second-round pick rises to the occasion and foresees Carr's maximize first-round burner Henry Ruggs early and often. I envision the Raiders surprising some people this year, with Carr being the main reason why. How do y'all feel about this question here? Do y'all think that he could be a dark horse MVP in this league?
Horse MVP sounds just right for Derek Carr. The hardest, the player that you mentioned that has the lowest chance of winning MVP is Ezekiel Elliott, depending on if Mike McCarthy wants to run the ball or have Dak pass it to Amari Cooper. But Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Derek Carr, yes. I completely agree with this. That they mentioned dark horse MVPs. It's going to be a tough race though for all these three because of they have Josh Allen, they added Stephon Diggs, Baker Mayfield. He has another shot on passing it to OBJ, and Derek Carr. He didn't have that much weapons last season. They couldn't catch the ball on the goal line where it's needed most, and now with all the receivers and tight ends that Derek Carr has this season, I've been saying this a lot of times now. This is the chance for Derek Carr to prove the doubters wrong. I don't know. I know I say this every time, but I'm telling you, this is the year for Derek Carr.
Yeah, I mean, this is the year. I think the year for him is his best. I think that he doesn't care about winning the MVP. I think he needs to make the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game as the Raiders starting quarterback for him to keep the job here in Las Vegas. I think that if anything short of that, really makes a difficult decision for John Gruden and Mike Mayock moving forward to see who is going to be the quarterback of the future here. I don't really want to get into it. It's such a crazy back and forth with people really being so polarized and just so one side or the other with Derek Carr. The fact to me is that Derek Carr is fully capable of leading this offense and winning football games. It really just is up to him to actually play up to his ability and stand in there and actually be able to do it. I have confidence that he can do it. There were times that he just didn't last year. I've seen him do it. We've all seen him do it. And we see that he's capable of doing it. But with all these new weapons, and if they make the playoffs, sure, he's probably one of the reasons why the Raiders do that. And at that point, maybe you do look at him as a potential dark horse to be an MVP. But I think that it's a little bit too early to kind of speculate. But I do know this, MVP or not, if the Raiders aren't in the playoffs, he's probably not the Raiders quarterback next year.
Playoffs are bust for Derek Carr.
Yeah, it's playoff a buzz for Derek Carr, and it's playoff a buzz for probably a lot of players that be looking too, like a Tyrell Williams. It's playoff a buzz for him too because he got a nice contract. So that's another player as well. But I feel like Derek Carr, just like Watts Raiders said, if Derek Carr can get us to a nice record halfway through the year, he's going to be an MVP candidate. And I think he could be an MVP candidate halfway through the year if our record is like 8-3 or 9-3 with 3 losses.
They got to win. If they win the division, he's got to be he'll be a front runner for the MVP because of everything going right means the offense is clicking, the defense is clicking. He's going to look good. Then he's definitely a potential MVP candidate. If the Raiders win the division, he's definitely up there.
Unleash the 2016 Derek Carr.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? We'll have to see how this goes, but it's definitely a long shot. And he's, dark horse is definitely, it's definitely an apt name.
Yeah, that's just how I feel about it. I just feel like Derek Carr can win it. It's just that he has to put up the numbers and he has to put up the wins as well. So you have to do that. You have to do that. It's win or bust. We got to at least make the playoffs, and his stats got to show too. It got to be a better touchdown interception ratio. It has to be not fumbling at the goal line for the next couple of years. So some things going to have to be tweaked. So we need that 2016 Carr if he wants to be even looked at a actual MVP dark horse candidate.
This is my hot take for the day. Derek Carr cannot fumble the ball out of the end zone in 2020 and win the MVP. That's my hot take for today.
Wow, that's y'all heard it here first on the Spotlight Raiders talk, man. We make sure we keep it, we let it know. We have a lot of hot takes on here. So
who does that?
That's the hottest of the hot. I said the hardest of the hardest of hot takes. Attaboy, Eli.
Oh man, Enrique. But so we gonna go into the Las Vegas Raiders 2020 post-draft depth chart. So we're gonna talk about these corners, man. We're gonna talk about these corners. Especially the additions and the subtractions part of it. But before we get into that, let's go look at the 2019 season where, we had Darren Worley, who was expected to step up and take command of the secondary in the slot. But, LaMarcus Joyner was considered one of the, the biggest pieces of free agency last year. However, none of those players were able to do anything with their opportunity. Conley did struggle. We did have Conley last year as well. Allowing a completion percentage of 66.7, 4 touchdowns, a passer rating of 130.6 in 6 games with the silver and black. While Worley was better, but he was still, gave up 111 receiving yards, 15.5 yards per completion. That's why I said Daryl Worley was a scrub. And I still feel like Daryl Worley is a scrub. That's just my personal opinion. But Trayvon Mullen, we got him in the draft. Play well. Cool. Let's go into the additions and the subtractions of the depth chart of the cornerback position. Let's talk about the first one, Prince Amukamara. Like, how do y'all feel about knowing that? Like I said, we did need a veteran corner. I said that on the last show. So, and Eli, he hit me up like, "Oh, there's our veteran corner right then and there." So, how y'all feel about the addition of Prince Amukamara?
Oh, you might be on
You
mute.
might be muted, Enrique. I can't hear you.
My bad. So, okay, so Eli, you tweeted to Darion about Prince Nakamura. Wait, I think that's his name. So you go first.
Well, just so you know, I was talking to Darion before we started tonight. I wore my Lester Hayes jersey because I knew we were going to be talking about some cornerbacks today. A lot of quarterback talk. Prince Amukamura got ourselves our veteran cornerback. He's going to be pushing for the other starting, one of the starting cornerback spots, whether that's against Trayvon Mullen, whether that's against Arnett, whether that's against Isaiah Johnson. We're just going to have to find out in camp. Isn't that fun? But he's going to really solidify that group and kind of push all of the youngsters and kind of give them some guidance, which I think is great. He very much like a Daryl Worley. He's not a world beater. I think that he's a little bit better than Worley when it comes to an outside corner. And I think that he can be a serviceable starting cornerback. If Arnett kind of takes a while and Johnson's not quite there, I think that he can be serviceable as a starting cornerback next to Tyrone Mullen. If Mullen struggles, he can go ahead and support, I believe, Arnett if Arnett's playing well. But if everybody's struggling and the only good cornerback is Amukamura, then we're in trouble. But I think that he is solid enough to, and I said this, I think I said this last week or at some point, I believe that he is going to start the season as the starter in Las Vegas.
Eli,
in Carolina.
wait, oh, yeah, there you go.
Why
Eli,
not?
Darion.
Why not? I wouldn't mind that either, knowing that he played against most of those teams. Playing with the Chicago Bears and playing with the New York Giants, so he has the experience. Knowing that we are young at the cornerback position, I wouldn't mind seeing Prince Amukamara and Trayvon Mullen starting the season. I wouldn't mind it having one second year player and having a veteran player come in. Knowing, understanding his age is up there, I could completely understand that. But I feel like Prince Amukamara brings a little bit more to what we already had. Knowing that we are very inexperienced, I don't think we have, outside of LaMarcus Jordan, I don't think we have a corner that's been there for at least 4 years, in my opinion. I don't think we do. So why not bring him on?
The turnover is pretty drastic, and that just goes to show you what the Raiders brass felt about their back seven. Pretty much look at the starting linebacker, or look at the linebacker list on the depth chart and the cornerback lists on the depth chart right now compared to week 1 of the NFL season last year. And that just, that proves there was an issue with the back seven of our defense. And it was one of the reasons why the Raiders were not a playoff team last year. But anyway, go ahead, Enrique.
Eli, Darion, I've been loving this Prince Amukamara sighting since day 1. We needed a veteran corner to lead our young corners like David Arnett, Trayvon Mullen, Mike Robertson, and we said this last week. Corner is one of the positions that will be a competition, seeing who will take our who will take the cornerback positions. Will it be Mullen? Will it be Robertson? Will it be who knows who's gonna get corner? Now, remember the statement that I Meg Robertson put out, wanting to be a starter. Will he be the starter? We never know. But I like this signing. They'll help the corners, and they're going to be a pretty good corners, like all-star corners. I'll say Pro Bowlers for the next few years.
Well, that would be certainly fantastic for the Raiders if they have one Pro Bowl or All-Pro cornerback out of that group. And who's to say potentially one of them could be that we do have some young, talented cornerbacks with potential. So that would be awesome.
It would be awesome to see. This is my hot take, and I don't know if anybody's going to agree with this hot take, but I think one of our rookie corners or Trayvon Mullen will make the Pro Bowl this year. That is my hot take.
That is steaming.
I don't know what's hotter, Eli's or Darion's.
Yeah, my hot take would be Trayvon Mullen or one of our or Prince Amuka is good. One of our corners will make the Pro Bowl. I wouldn't say two. I say at least one. Matter of fact, scratch that. Any defensive back, no matter if it's a safety or corner, any of them make the Pro Bowl. That is my hot take. Rookie or veteran, it doesn't matter.
There's enough. Listen, I'll tell you what. That's a hot take, but there's enough unproven talent that has potential. I would be surprised, but I would not be completely blown away, shocked if that happens. I think that we all expect first round pick Arnett, Trayvon Mullen, second round pick last year, or potentially, Abram or somebody stepping up and really balling out and showing out. I think that we all would hope that would happen. Unlikely, yes, but potentially, sure.
Jack,
yeah, I could say a rookie. I mean, I've seen rookie cornerbacks make the Pro Bowl. I think Jalen Ramsey did it. I think he did it in his first year in Jacksonville. So it's possible to happen, long as you foot in the right system and you playing to the best of your ability to a point where if you could get at least about 4 or 5 interceptions, you can make the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, Watts, Rader, they're all going to have to get some interceptions and ball out real well to make the Pro Bowl. But again, they're all running on potential at the moment, right? We don't have a lot of tape on any of these guys, including Trayvon Mullen. So let's go ahead and just be bullish and be very excited and see the potential in all these guys to make the Pro Bowl. Who knows?
Absolutely. I think Damon Arnett's going to be a sleeper, but I don't see him making a Pro Bowl this year.
We'll be positive today. We'll be positive. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, sometimes you do have shows where we debate. Sometimes we do have shows where we agree. That's part of being a part of a podcast show. We agree to disagree. That's just what we do here at the Spotlight Raiders Talk. Make sure y'all follow us on social media, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Y'all got it right there. And then we live on Big O. I'm live on Big O under my name. So shout out to everybody that's watching on Big O Live. That's a good app if you want to live stream as well. That's helping me get some revenue for the channel as well. So yes, thank y'all so much for tuning in. So we did get the cornerbacks. We got that out the way. Now the depth chart of the corners. The depth chart of the corners right now, what it's looking like, it says the number 1 corner is Mullen. Then number 2 is Arnett. 3 is Joyner. 4 is Amuk Kamara. Number 5 is Robinson. Number 6 is Isaiah Johnson. That's what the depth chart is looking like according to this. How do y'all feel about that depth chart? Do y'all feel like y'all would make some changes to the depth chart?
Week 1 starting cornerback, I would replace Amuk Kamara with Arnett. But by the end of the season, that could be the way it looks, depending on how Isaiah Johnson performs and depending on how Robertson performs.
So who would you be after Mullen and Prince Amukamara? Who would be that third corner? You'll still keep Joyner there?
I mean, listen, Lamar Joyner was terrible last year, performed very, very poorly under everyone's expectations, even the people that weren't excited about the signing. Don't get me wrong about that. The Raiders do see his ability, and he was a solid pro at free safety, and even at nickel before in his career. And I think that he has the tools to be a solid slot cornerback. I think that this is the year where he is going to be put where he can make the biggest difference on the defense and not just shoehorned into the slot. If he's not playing well at the slot, they'll find somebody on the roster to do that, whether that's Robertson. If Robertson is not playing up to par and not ready to step in, even Demarius Randall can move inside. Arnett can move inside. They have some options now with some of the young talent they do have on the team. So if Joyner can't play slot and really can only play free safety, again, Demarius Randall has played slot cornerback. He's not very good, but if Joyner stinks it up as badly as he did last year, anybody is better than him. I just, for some reason, don't see that happening. What about you, Enrique?
Now, I would say yes about this. Now, don't forget we have preseason going on, so we'll see the draft picks firsthand and seeing Damon Arnett, Robertson play. And if John Gruden thinks for our first regular season game that they have to put in Prince, I'd be fine with that. But once Gruden thinks it's the right time to put in Damon Arnett, put him in with Trayvon Mullen. It's his time to shine. Damon Arnett needs to show that we didn't draft him 19th overall for nothing.
Which is true. I feel like with this depth chart, my depth chart would be Mullen as the number one corner, then Amukamara at 2. I think I'll bring Robinson up to 3, then put Joyner at 4, Arnett at 5, I will put Isaiah Johnson at 5, Arnett at 6. I just feel like right now, just because we just don't know where we're getting out of Arnett, I wouldn't put him as high on the depth chart. I have to see what he can actually do. Now, understand that Robinson is a little bit better than Arnett in some instances, but everybody's traits are different. So with me, I think Isaiah Johnson might have a bounce back year. But Joyner has to play safety. He cannot play nothing else. Not no corner, not no slot corner, nothing that has CB on it. It has to be SS or FS, strong safety or free safety, period. Arnett is better than Joyner, which he is, which is understandable. But I feel like Arnett wouldn't be ready week 1 compared to Joyner might be being ready week 1. But you just never know. Things might happen in preseason to a point where Arnett might win over LaMarcus Joyner. You just don't know. We've seen rookies take veteran spots in all kinds of sports. Doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, or whatever. So I just feel like Isaiah Johnson, he has something to – Isaiah Johnson, it's kind of like his rookie year as well. We really haven't seen much of him play. That's why I still got him down. That's why I still got him down low on the depth chart.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and everyone's going to, hopefully this does come to fruition because this is a big take here. Last year, LaMarcus Joyner was one of my, I was most excited about that signing because it filled a need, and I thought, from seeing what he did with the Rams, he could fill that need. Last year, he played terribly. I strongly believe in 2020, LaMarcus Joyner will be one of the most improved players from last year on the Las Vegas Raiders. That's right. LaMarcus Joyner will be one of the most improved players in 2020 on the Raiders roster, and that in itself will change the dynamic of our entire defense. Back to you, Gary.
Hold up, Enrique. I don't think Nixon is a part of our team anymore, Watts Reader. I think we released him.
No, that was we released Nelson, Nick Nelson.
Nick Nelson. Okay.
Eli, I love that attitude right there. You gotta believe in this team. I said you gotta believe in this team. Just win, baby, win. So yes, LaMarcus Joyner, he did not play so good for us last season. Which is understandable. We didn't have that great of a defense. And so with all the needs that we got in free agency and in the draft, LaMarcus Jordan has more help. And don't forget, Jonathan Abram is coming back to help him. He's coming back to help him. I cannot wait to see this.
Yeah, that's going to be a great addition as well if Abram can play up to the way that we think that he can. So yeah, I think that's that's the cornerbacks.
And I just feel like with the cornerbacks, I think there's so much debate about it. I just can't wait for like preseason and these guys to come out there and be in competition. This is going to be great with the competition. Like I'm really starting to now since we did the depth chart on the corners. I feel like if we do a show talking about the position battles of each position, I think that'll be an idea. So that just brought it right up for us. Absolutely.
And let's not forget here too, this is really early still. I mean, they have not even put on any pads. We have not gotten the training camp. Once that happens, we'll really start to see where these rookies are at. How they're catching up to the game, how they've done their studying, how they've kept in shape in this weird, strange digital Zoom-tastic off-season type thing that they're doing. Right now, this is all just takes from our opinions. So we'll take it with a grain of salt, but I think that we can all say that the cornerback position is improved on paper at the moment.
Yeah, so it's all proven on paper at the moment as well. But we could definitely get into the next topic here because we're going right down the pipeline, going right in order. And this is according to RaidersWire.com, where it says the Raiders linebacking spot features the NFL's 6 biggest upgrades, wide receivers among rookies upgrades as well. So according to Raiders Wire, they says among the worst at any position, certainly it makes it a lot easier to upgrade the offseason. That was the case for a couple of positions for the Raiders in this offseason. Wide receiver and linebacker were far away the most desperate spots for an upgrade. Now, linebacker was an issue across the board, and the Raiders found themselves with no returning starter at the position in this offseason. Tahir Whitehead coming off of a second season. Then you have was rated one of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL. The team released him and signed top free agency Corey Littleton. So the top 5 ESPN top 5 biggest upgrades were the Colts DeForest Buckner, Buccaneers Tom Brady, Cardinals DeAndre Hopkins, Dolphins Brian Jones, and Eagles Darius Slay, and then that's the Raiders with Corey Littleton. Now it's interesting that the Raiders were signing. We were interested in signing Byron Jones at the time, or traded for Darius Slay. That was rumors that was going out in free agency as well. But we lost out on them attempts because we knew we wasn't going to pay that type of money to Byron Jones or Darius Slay because we wanted to help out at other positions. So drafting Damon Arnett and signing Prince Amukamara was better off for us. But let me go to the wide receiver part now. Okay, so the wide receiver part was definitely a gaping hole. They listed Henry Ruggs as the 3rd best addition to the team. The over-under for Ruggs is in the receiving numbers are set at 800 yards. Outside of the 4th spot for Henry Ruggs for wide receiver, the other notable rookie upgrades was Bengals Joe Burrow over Andy Dalton, Washington's Chase Young over Ryan Anderson, and Lions Jeff Okudah over Rashad Melvin, former Raider, but didn't do nothing with us. So how do you feel about the Raiders being the 6th best at the linebacker position and the 4th best at the wide receiver position?
Eli, I'll save mine for last.
Okay.
You go.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of touched on this before of just how much better the linebackers are now than they were before. Even, worth the money on paper for sure. The Raiders linebackers were just plain awful. I'm actually surprised that Littleton over Whitehead is 6th and not a little bit higher than this. Although I don't disagree with the other replacements as well. Yeah, what else can be said other than, when you're really terrible, somebody that's good is a very good upgrade and one of the best in the league. And as far as wide receiver, anybody they brought in who was a top-end talent is going to be an upgrade over what they had last year. So, Ruggs, as far as a rookie, is going to make the biggest impact as far as a wide receiver, top 3. I think that's what they said or something like that. So I totally agree. And Littleton, I think, is a top 5 upgrade over my boy Tahir Whitehead, who I hope plays week 1 and starts against the Raiders for the Carolina Panthers.
Now, Darion, let me ask you this. Would you like seeing the Raiders sign Darius Slay or Byron Jones?
I wouldn't mind either of them because they're veteran corners and we're still young at that position. So, but if we had the money to spend on a Byron Jones or on a Darius Slay, why not go for it? If it was going to break our pockets and we were still able to do bring in the people that we bought in with the cap space, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind it, but we didn't have that money. We didn't have that cap space. Why do you think we got Nick Kowalski and Corey Littleton on a good deal, but we didn't break the bank to get them? So the Raiders did well in cap space on getting what's needs and not wants.
Well, and I also think that they kind of saw those 2 glaring needs on defense, and they said, we're going to go ahead and use the draft for one, and we're going to use free agency for one. And obviously they went all in on free agency on linebacker. And then when they did that, remember I said they're not going to pick a linebacker in the draft. People were still talking about Murray or from Oklahoma, or Prince from LSU. And I was like, no, they're going to go cornerback in the draft. So it looks like the Raiders are going to be home growing their own cornerbacks and building through the draft and building through youth. They're going to pick up less expensive guys like Amukamara to kind of add some veteran presence and potential depth if one of these guys falter in their development. But the Raiders are building from the draft in the back end of their defense, safety, defensive back. I love it. I love homegrown guys. That's, those first 4 years are going to be really great contracts, and you're going to be able to have more flexibility to sign high price free agents at some other positions like defensive end, potentially, who knows, maybe a quarterback at the end of the day in 2021, 2022.
And what other place to be homegrown than good old Las Vegas? Screw Jerry Jones' world.
But this is how I feel about it. I feel about it as Henry Ruggs being the 4th best. Why not at wide receiver? But I feel like our linebackers should have been higher. Nobody else couldn't go out and get Corey Littleton for the price that we got him for. Corey Littleton's price probably would have been higher with any other team in the league besides the Raiders. He wanted to stay on the West Coast. He was already with the Rams last year. So for what the money that we got at the linebacker position and the caliber that we got at the linebacker position should have been top 5. I mean, understanding DeAndre Hopkins went to the Cardinals, understanding that, certain, what was the other ones? I forgot the other one. It was right there on the list. But DeAndre Hopkins was the one that stood out to me getting traded to the Cardinals. I was not expecting that. But I just feel like we should have been a little bit higher on that list because Corey Littleton was the best linebacker in free agency. In free agency this year, he was the best linebacker on the board for free agency. So he should have definitely should have been like top 4 or top 3 with the especially amongst linebackers. So let's get to a little bit of offense. We talk about a defense a lot, and we don't talk too much about offense. And let's talk about it is the Raiders 2020 position battles, and this is the running backs position. Just to let y'all know, remind me, Enrique and Eli, when I do the position battles, make sure I don't have them on the list like we already did them or anything of that nature. Make sure I'll just scratch them out because knowing me, I'll forget. So the first comparison that they had right now, according to Raiders Wire, they said last year the Raiders got their starting running back in Josh Jacobs with the 24th overall pick, and it burst onto the scene, put the numbers worthy of named Rookie of the Year, which he didn't get over Kyler Murray, which that sucked. He is unquestionably the team's feature back, but he needs a backup to share he definitely need to share a load where the competition comes in. So the first one they put on there is Lynn Bowden versus Devontae Booker. The others that's on this roster is Jalen Richard, Rod Smith, William Stanback, and Allen Ingold, which Allen Ingold is a fullback. Now, out of those battles, now that battle between the Lynn Bowden Jr. and Devontae Booker, my question is, who would you think will make the team first? I think Lynn Bowden will, but I feel like they'll keep Devontae Booker in some ways. I don't know how, but some ways. But how y'all feel about this running back lineup that we have?
If it's not Lynn Bowden, it would be a waste of a third round pick. Or he could play wide receiver, but still, if it was either one of those two, it has to be Lynn Bowden. And if Lynn Bowden does play pretty good in either running back or wide receiver, one of the guys, like either Nelson Aguilar or Devontae Booker, they're going to be gone of the roster in midseason.
I agree. I think that it actually, what's going to happen is, Jalen Richard is going to transform from the third down back, getting a lot of catches, change of pace type back he was in the past. He's going to move into that second spell Josh Jacobs, give this guy a bunch of carries type running back. I mean, I know he's smaller, but I don't think that matters for John Gruden. I think that he wants all of his running backs across the board to be able to pass protect, to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield and make plays and run hard. And Richard has proven that he can do all those things. So I think, as far as Bowden Jr. versus Booker, I don't think that's much of a battle at all. The fact that Bowden can play that joker position and really be that dynamic playmaker, that's not something Booker can do. I don't see Booker making those the top three running backs and making the team day to day. I think that it's going to be those three and Ingold as your four running backs on the squad. And I don't see Booker, I see him being kind of a reserve who doesn't really play at all, barring injury.
So if that's the case, Eli, what would you do with William Stanback? I really don't know too much about him, knowing that I think that would be more of the position battle between William Stanback and Devontae Booker than a Lynn Bowden and a Devontae Booker.
Exactly right.
In my opinion.
Exactly right. I think that's actually the battle, is who's going to stay on the practice squad for the Raiders in case of injury. Is it going to be Stanback or Booker? Stanback played in the CFL. He's a big dude. I know that Angry at Trask loves Stanback, and you can find highlights of him. He looks like a big monstery type running back. I'm sure everybody will like him. But the fact is, he did it in the CFL. He doesn't have I don't think he has any NFL experience. So he's a long shot, but he has some physical tools and he looks cool running the football. I would love to see him on the team. He definitely looks like a guy who would murder people in the preseason and then just completely vanish starting week one.
What you going to go with, Enrique? What you going to go with, brother?
Now, let me ask you this. I don't know about this guy either, and I need a refresher here. What position does he play, mainly? Like, what position does he play?
Who?
Steinbeck?
He plays running back.
He's done. There's no way he's going to beat Josh Jacobs, Lynn Bowden, and Devontae Booker. I'm sorry. Not going to happen. Like, sure, it's for depth, okay? But if Josh Jacobs is staying healthy mid-season and either Lynn Bowden or Devontae Booker is his backup, then I don't see Steinbeck being part of the Raider roster mid-season. Hell, it might be gone after week one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know too much about William Stanback. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know too much. What's going on, Washington Park? What's up with you, man? What's up with you? But yeah, I think it's out of William Stanback and Devontae Booker in my personal opinion.
I mean, listen, watch Raider. I'm sure your video on Booker is great. I'll watch it. for everybody that just thinks that this dude is going to totally tear it up on the Raiders, he doesn't take Rashard's spot. He doesn't take Jacob's spot. And Bowden just got picked third in the draft to be a dynamic player in the backfield for the Raiders. So unless he's going to play fullback and take over Alec Ingold's spot, I don't see a spot for him on the team. We'll just have to see after camp and in the preseason before week 1.
Yeah, that's just we'll see what happens. We'll see who's on the actual depth chart. So we're going to go into the next part of our topic. According to Raiders Wire. Let me just get that real quick. Let me go to the notes. So we have Bleacher Report predicts that the Raiders quarterback Derek Carr would throw 25 touchdowns in 2020. I don't know about. I mean, I'm not. Eli, I'll come back last. Eli, go first. Take the floor, brother.
I want to go first, if I may. Darion, you gotta believe. If Bleacher Report is making that statement about your quarterback, you gotta believe in your quarterback.
I understand that, but you know how Bleacher Report like to throw things out of proportion sometimes. Bleacher Report sometimes their articles really like. First, you had articles all year about Bleacher Report how Derek Carr was getting traded, how Derek Carr was doing this, how Derek Carr was doing that, and then now all of a sudden Bleacher Report reports that Derek Carr is going to throw 25 touchdowns. Give me a break. It's not even about Carr throwing 25 touchdowns. It's about more of Bleacher Report always hating on the Raiders, always hating on Derek Carr, and then all of a sudden you want to love Derek Carr and he's going to throw 25 touchdowns. Give me a break with Bleacher Report. That's just how I feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really don't. Sure, whatever. I mean, I don't really take much from this. I mean, it's a pretty abstract number, I guess, just based on his previous performance. I don't know what Derek Carr is going to, how many touchdowns Derek Carr is going to throw for. I just know that he has the potential to have a very good season with the offensive tools that have been put around him this year. If everybody plays well and the rookies play the way they're supposed to play, and John Gruden continues to make some better play calls inside the 20, they're going to score some more points. He's going to throw more touchdowns. Maybe Jason Witten is the beneficiary of some of those. So I don't really care how many he throws as long as he's throwing them on a playoff team.
I agree. Understanding that he was 70% completion last year, threw for 4,000 yards. Not really okay. He did that last year. He's going to throw 25 touchdowns. If he throws 25 touchdowns and take us to the playoffs, I'm satisfied with that. I'm just kind of sick of the Bleacher Report downgrading Carr his whole offseason, and now all of a sudden you want to say, oh, he's going to throw 25 touchdowns. Like, pick a side. I got faith in Derek Carr. I always did have faith in Derek Carr. But it's just something about Bleacher Report that kind of gets on my nerves when it comes to, trying to do Raider content. Like, it just kind of irked me. And just to let y'all know that Derek Carr did have 368 completions on 538 attempts with 4,212 yards, 25. That's what they're saying the full prediction is of Derek Carr. So they're saying that 368 completions for Derek Carr, 538 attempts for Derek Carr. So his stats would be 4,212 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 34 carries for 88 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. What's y'all thought on those stats according to the Bleacher Report?
I mean, I wasn't really. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's going to have something similar to that. Maybe. I don't think he's going to have any sort of crazy, upgrade to those numbers that makes it even worth a discussion at this point, to be honest. So again, it very well could be that.
Listening to Bleacher Report reminds me of ESPN and NFL Network predicting the season. But still, you got to remember, having a bowl game like that, Derek Carr has to prove him right. Now, you're right. Bleacher Report has been hating on the Raiders for so long, for who knows how when, and now they want to say that they're going to make 25 touchdowns, like they're predicting that. Like, sure, Derek Carr has to prove him right though, or else Bleacher Report's going to continue hating.
I
That's
mean,
exactly what it is.
it's crazy too because I mean, if you really think about it, 25 touchdowns doesn't seem like a lot in this NFL, especially for a
That's what I'm saying, Eli. Like
but,
I don't.
but I mean, Carr really hasn't done that all that often. I agree he should. I think that with Edwards and with Bowden and with Witten and with all these guys that can make plays with some creative play calling inside the 5, inside the 10-yard line, with Derek Carr throwing the ball, passing the ball, whatever. I do think that he's going to have the opportunity again to throw a lot more touchdown passes than he has in the last couple of years. Maybe Gruden is going to do a lot more with Bowden in the Wildcat inside the 5-yard line. I don't know. Who knows what causes him to not, to not throw 25 touchdowns? He should. That's a pretty solid number. I think he should throw more than 25 touchdowns. He's only done that, I think, one time in his career, to be honest, like 2016. So the Raiders offense should score more touchdowns. Derek Carr throwing them, you should be the beneficiary of that.
Just to let y'all know in the comments, this is not a four loco, it's a twisted T. Just to let y'all know. It's a twisted T. That's all it is. It's not a four loco. It's not an Arizona. It's a twisted T. Nothing more, nothing less.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about different ISTs, or are we talking football here?
Well, I was drinking while y'all was talking, so it's like Daniel was like, "Oh, Darion with the four loco." No, that definitely was not that.
With the four loco. Oh god! Whoever brought that up, I hate you.
But the next one is the next topic that we have on our schedule is the Raiders signing Corey Littleton, named one of the best off-season moves in the NFL. So, according to another Bleacher Report, they want to praise us now. Littleton Littleton is a crown jewel of the organization's free agency class because he gives the Raiders leader in the middle of their defense and provides them with a true modern day linebacker. He's 26 years old and well worth the franchise with a 3-year, $35.25 million investment. If he remains an every down player and posts at least 125 or more tackles each season, he did in the previous 2 campaigns. Now, what they saying is that move alone, it should have a massive impact on the Raiders defense. The team decided to spread the time to add speed in the worst way, and Littleton coverage ability will help out significantly against such as Chiefs and Broncos. Look for Littleton to lead the Raiders in tackles in 2020 and become one of the most valuable defenders. This investment by the Raiders should be an instant return. How do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have already touched on it. That it's been a great signing. It's probably one of the biggest improved positions on the Raiders. Like we said, linebacker and wide receiver. So, I completely agree.
Enrique, we can't hear you, brother.
Now it works. I don't know what's with me in the mute button. I honestly don't. All right, now you're right. Linebacker. It was one of the biggest needs for us of us grabbing Nick Kwiatkowski. I don't know how to say his last name, and Corey, and they forgot to mention corner because, in my opinion, corner was a bigger need than linebacker. Sure, we have Trayvon Mullen, but he cannot be the only good defensive player for us, leading this defense with LaMarcus Joyner. So, if we're talking about what was our biggest need on defense, I say corner. I'm glad we got David Arnett Emmitt Robinson and Prince Amakamura.
Yeah, so I think Corey Littleton was one of our best offseason moves. And I was happy that we was going to get him because I was like, Corey Littleton's out there. He's still not signed. What is going on to Corey Littleton? I was sitting, I was like checking my phone like every 10 million, like every 10 minutes, like, what are we doing in Raiders? Because I got to make sure I had this uploaded, had that content uploaded. And boom, the next morning we signed Corey Littleton. Right, the next day after we got Nick Kowalski. So, yes, that was just awesome on that end. But we're going to go back onto the cornerback position. And this is a question for everybody that's watching. And this is a question for Eli and Enrique. Will the youth be enough to restart the Raiders cornerback group? Now, the Las Vegas Raiders added plenty of talent in a comeback position through this offseason that could be both less than optimum at the same time ahead in the 2020 season. One of the Raiders' weakest links last year was the cornerback unit, other than Trayvon Mullen. They were inconsistent, injured, or young as a whole. After the 2020 draft and free agency, the group will have plenty of new faces. We have like we've been talking talent, but yet unproven. With Worley and everybody else being a part of it, and we getting the corners that we needed to get in the draft. Now the youth, would you think the youth will restart? Like, will the youth be enough to restart the Raiders cornerback group to be something special? Like,
Well,
Yeah,
John,
like I said. Oh, go ahead, Enrique.
if John Gruden wants to make our new corner special, he has to open that playbook and
you mean
play.
Paul Gunther? Not
Yeah.
John Gruden, Paul Gunther.
Yeah, I forgot about Paul Gunner. Look, if Paul Gunner wants to make Damon Arnett and make Robinson something special, he has to open that book for Damon Arnett and make Robertson, because we don't have a sucky defense anymore. This is a new era of defense. Like, we were the worst defensive teams for who knows when, and now with the draft that we had, like, this is something new for the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, the draft definitely supported the youth movement in the cornerback position, and like I said before, I think we're all really hopeful that these young corners can step into roles quickly and become starting quality, if not high level starting quality defensive backs. That's including Abram, including all the cornerbacks that they got last year as well as this year. If they can, I think that that's a huge benefit for the Raiders, because cornerback's a pretty expensive position on an NFL team for the high-end ones. If you can get some homegrown cornerbacks that are playing at a very high level, maybe even a Pro Bowl level, and you got them still on their their rookie deals, that's just a benefit and gives you much more flexibility to spend money elsewhere. But not even from a money standpoint. I think that growing from the draft and really building your roster from the draft and getting cohesion with a group of 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys in the defensive backfield, that really benefits the team and benefits the group itself. So, yeah, I'm going to say that I'm buying. I'm buying on this. I am feeling pretty good about these cornerbacks, and while they're unproven and a lot of them haven't shown anything yet, I'm excited and I'm bullish on them, as one would say. I think that we're going to see a pretty good cornerback and defensive back group out of these last 2 drafts for the Raiders.
Now, how I feel about it is, yes, I am buying in just like Eli. Now, what the thing about it is, Paul Gunther got to get this scheme right for these players to make plays on the football field. He have to put these corners and these safeties and these linebackers and the rotation of the defensive line. We have to have chemistry on the defensive line. It starts with the defensive line, it starts with linebacker, and it starts with corner. We got to be in sync all three phases of a defense. And that's what Paul Guttner has to get everyone in sync. So this defense can work together. Like, oh, the defensive line is doing their job, but the linebackers can't stop the run and the corners can't cover. But we're getting sacks because we're getting to them quicker than they get out their routes. So it has to be all in one sync for me. And I feel like with this younger group, mind you, like I said, it's all going to start off the leadership on the defensive side. Whoever
Very.
it, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned Paul Gunther. I mean, Paul Gunther is more or less the defensive version of Derek Carr. I mean, honestly, this is the year that he needs to have his defense perform. He's gotten a pass because he literally had zero talent at linebacker the last couple years. I don't think he's ever had a good linebacker. I mean, Vontez Burfict was suitable. I certainly wouldn't say that he was any sort of world beater. But outside of that, wouldn't even consider any of our linebackers real starting quality linebackers last year. To hear Whitehead just wasn't good. After Burfict went down, they just had no options. The year before was very similar. So this year he has talent at linebacker. This year he has talent at more depth of solid potential talent in the back end. He's got to bring it. He's got to make these guys play well, or he's not going to be the defensive coordinator the entire season.
I think I can agree there, but I feel like now with Paul Guttner having have these weapons on this side, not weapons, but upgrading each position from the D line to the corners and the safeties, he has to put players in the right position, and that's where he went wrong last year. A lot of players was not in the right position. Like LaMarcus Jordan was one of them. LaMarcus was one of the players that he tried to put anywhere near the 7-man box or the 8-man box. He's not that type of player. Yes, he can tackle at sometimes, but we all know him, what type of safety he was. So you got to go to your players' strengths and not their weaknesses. And I feel like that's what Paul Guttner needs to do. I'm not buying into Paul Guttner this year, but at the same time, that's what we have to work with to win games. That's fine by me, but hopefully, if he does not show up, then Paul Guttner will be out, and I think Ron Marinelli will be upgraded
Yeah,
to the defensive coordinator. So that would be, I think all of us would have that hot take.
you could say that Marinelli is Paul Gunther's Mariota, as it were.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So the next topic that we have two more topics, and we're going to have y'all ask questions. Now, we did talk about it. You talked about it in the beginning of the show, Eli, about the Rooney Rule. So it has been some tweaks to the Rooney Rule. Now, Jim Trotter of NFL Media reported that NFL ownership is voting on a resolution that will offer teams to fill head coaching and executive vacancies with minorities incentives on draft day. While the league may mean well in implications that they're wide-ranging are already causing a quite disruption. So the proposed changes that they have is the league policy of equal employment and workplace diversity that changes along voting as follows. They'll remove a long-standing anti-tampering barrier that permits clubs to block assistant coaches from interviewing a coordinator position with other clubs, even though having a coordinator experience is typically the final and the most significant step in becoming a head coach. Now, hiring a minority as a head coach will help the team move up 6 spots from where they slotted in the pick in the 3rd round in the coach's 2nd season. It will jump to 10 spots under the same scenario for hiring a person of color as primary football executive, a position of knowing as a general manager. Now, by filling the positions with diversity candidates, in the same year, the club would jump 16 spots for 6 for a coach and 10 for a general manager, and potentially move from the top of the 3rd round to the middle of the 2nd round. A team's 4th round pick would climb up 5 spots in drafting a preceding coach or general manager's 3rd year and still with the team. It is a very diversity issue. It is a lot of backlash that's going on about this Rooney Rule about minority candidates. This was on RadarRamble.com. Um, but how do y'all feel about they making changes to the Rooney Rule because of the minority coaches? There's not many in the NFL, and they want to make these changes. I just want to get a small input, and we could go to the next topic.
Well, I mean, I kind of have to. Well, I'm not going to opt out of this, but I certainly my say is certainly far less. As a cis white man, I certainly, my opinion is a little bit less valid. I think in this this discussion, the only thing I can kind of reinforce is that there does need to be something changed with this. I just don't know what that is. Now I know that the NFL has approved. I believe they did approve some new stipulations, but the draft pick stipulation was not approved. It was not approved. It was tabled. So it's still on the table there, but it was kind of moved down further down the line to discuss later. But I think right now just a couple other things were approved about the tampering rules relaxed so that teams can talk to other candidates, and also I believe now two minority, or I'm sorry, well, teams will now be required to interview at least two candidates from outside the organization for any vacant head coaching job, and at least one minority candidate from outside their organization. So for any defensive, offensive, or special teams job. So two candidates from outside the organization for a head coach, one for a coordinator job. So that's all that I kind of can say about that at this point.
Teams have been interviewing candidates for years now. I didn't know why they made this new Rooney Rule. Like, a lot of people in the chat even know that this is a stupid rule on why. Like, what else did I have to say? Ethnic minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operation jobs. This has been going on like forever in the NFL, and for the fact that Roger Goodell made this rule to make themselves look like complete fools. I don't know why. I don't even know why this is even a topic to talk about.
Well, again, I mean, it's certainly something needs to change as far as getting a more diverse landscape of coaches and general managers. Yes, I'm reading the chat. The Raiders, this doesn't really pertain to the Raiders because of our history of, breaking so many barriers, whether it's, females or player or coaches of color, or with like Flores and Art Shell, Amy Trask, Mackenzie, the list goes on. So yes, the Raiders aren't the reason why this rule exists. There's a lot of other organizations that I can probably name off the top of my head that I won't. Those are probably the reasons why these exist.
I'll do it.
So yeah, I mean, we need to figure out a way to do this. It's a sensitive subject, and I really don't have an answer for it.
I'll name
And
one
I agree
team
with
that
I agree with what Fierce Raider said. It's a cheap way to get draft picks, in my opinion. I think it is, but this is how I feel about it. Knowing that I am minority myself and I'm a person of color, I feel like we should have more opportunity in the NFL. Knowing that, if you notice, we did have a few minorities in the league that's no longer even coaches in the NFL anymore because they didn't get that second shot after they got fired. I mean, some of them did, some of them didn't. But at the same time, I just feel like even though if they're not a head coach or at least give them we got Byron Leftwich as an offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, which is a step in the right direction. But Bobby can't see more of that. I'm not saying. All I'm saying is even the playing field. That's all I'm saying. I don't have no problem with the coaches that we have now in the NFL, but it's some good coaches that's out there that had one shot and they didn't make it through a full season and they could never see another coaching job in the NFL again. So I feel like you have coaches that's not of color, which I'm not saying is racist, but I'm not saying it's racist at all because I don't think it is. But you're seeing coaches that go 0-16. You see coaches that go 4-12. You see coaches that go 3-13. That's not color and still get second chances. You know, so I'm not. That's the part that I don't understand. So trying to get more draft picks to have more minorities as coaches, I disagree with it as well. But I just wanted. I mean, I don't have no problem with white coaches, Mexican coaches, anything of that nature. I just feel like us as minorities just need a fair shot.
And I think the whole reason why this rule exists is because I think that there is a contingency that doesn't believe that that's happening on a high level in the NFL. Whether it is or not, I personally can't say. Again, my words aren't really worth as much in this discussion, but I think that there is concern that that's not really happening as far as giving the fair shake. But again, I'm not in those meetings with all the NFL teams, so I have no idea what's said. But the fact that they're pushing the envelope on this certainly means that there is concern, at least. And I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yes, Watts Raider. Dolphins head coach is black. Yes. He's in his second year with the Miami Dolphins. He is second. We did have one more topic about Prince Amukamara, but I think we talked about him a bit much already.
Yeah.
So we're just going to get straight into the Q&A in the chat. If y'all do have any questions for us, I will highlight it right here on the actual screen here. So if you do have a question for us, because I know y'all was asking questions earlier while we were doing our topic. So here you go, guys. Y'all do have the floor.
Speak to me! Speak to me! Speak to me!
What one thing I will say as far as some things that we talked about, I really am just really stoked about the cornerback group's potential. And I think that there's a lot of options and people that can stick out. As far as the depth at linebacker, after these guys, Kwiatkowski and Littleton, Taylor Muse, he's a rookie. He hasn't proved anything yet. So we have no idea what he can bring. I think, Morrow is out. I believe, is Morrow signed? He might be.
I think he's still signed with us. I'm not
so
too sure.
We don't have Compton, and obviously Burfict is gone. So we're really putting our eggs in the basket of these two high-priced free agents and high-talent free agents. But then also these rookies, we can add Javen White to the pool of rookies trying to make the team. So we're really kind of trying to put our eggs in the basket of these guys. So I'm hoping that not only can Littleton and Kwiatkowski perform, but they can also stay healthy, and these young guys have some time to develop on their own and become starters in their own right, maybe at some point in the future, or at least competent reserves in the linebacking position.
So we got 805 Raider, and 805 Raider says, is Foster going to be ready? Or you think he's going to play a part in getting Witten? How y'all feel about that?
That's right. So we still do have Lee. Watch Raider did remind me that Markel Lee still on the. We've already discussed how garbage the linebackers were last year. He was a linebacker last year. So, nobody that really gives me real great confidence on the back, the second level of the defense. But, he is there for depth, and he has been a linebacker for a while at this point. Anyway, so go on. Sorry.
Are we answering 805 Raiders' question about Foster?
Yeah, what was the question again? Sorry, I was talking.
It was 805 Raiders said, let me go back up to this. It says, is Foster Moreau going to be ready to go, or do you think they played a part in getting Jason Witten?
Now, I said this earlier today in the stream. that the reason we got Jason Witten is that he could lead the tight ends and receivers on getting the ball and catching the ball in big time situations. Like I said, last season our receivers were so scared of catching the ball in the goal line. Jason Wynn has that experience, and he is going to lead our receivers and tight ends on that this season. So I'm not too mad of that pick at all.
Uh, I mean, I think it did have a little bit to do with it. I think even if Foster Moreau is completely healthy, I think that they see a upgrade on Derek Carrier in Jason Witten. But I do think that they brought in a couple other tight ends via free agency. I'm sorry, undrafted free agents to compete and kind of fill out that position group in training camp. I don't think that Foster Moreau is going to be completely healthy at the beginning of camp and preseason. So this is, Jason Witten is just an upgrade on him regardless. But I do think that that probably came into mind when looking to see how they can improve this roster.
I think it's an upgrade, but I don't think it was an upgrade from because Foster was hurt. I just think it was an upgrade because we know Jason Witten, we know we're young at the tight end position. Even though Waller had a great year last year, he's still a young tight end, and he could learn from Jason Witten, which is a future Hall of Famer in this league. So I think it didn't play a part in getting Witten at all. Rod Gass says, "Do y'all think Johnson's worth it? He didn't show anything yet." I think he's worth it. I think you just got to give him some time. He's coming off a broken face, y'all. I think you got to give him some time. I think he will be good. It's just that he just recovered from an injury. A lot of these corners outside of Johnson is unproven. So just Johnson will be worth it. I think he will. How would y'all feel about that?
What was the question? Is Johnson?
Do y'all think Johnson is worth it? He didn't show anything yet.
Well, I mean, it was a fourth round pick. So I would say, as a fourth round pick, if you're getting any snaps and making an impact, I think that that's quote unquote worth it. As Darion said, his injury kind of kept him off the field for a while. He looked the part once he kind of started playing some snaps. So I think that the hope is that he continues his upward trajectory and is the type of player that Gruden and Mayock thought he was coming out of Houston and can play backup snaps or potentially push for a starting role. Again, once camp starts, all these youngsters are going to start pushing each other, and we'll see who rises to the top.
I wouldn't do anything negative to Isaiah Johnson. He adds depth to our corner position, and all y'all better remember, even those in the chat, you got to remember, corner is one of the toughest positions in football. Any corner can get hurt anytime. You never know. You saw what happened with Jonathan Abram. Even though he's a safety, that shows that you never know when your good players get hurt. So I wouldn't do anything to Isaiah Johnson. He adds depth, and I like it.
I think Isaiah Johnson would be fine. He would definitely be fine.
I mean, yeah, worth it. Yes, I think he's worth it, and he's certainly worth looking at more as a predominant role as a cornerback, along with everything else that he does. I think he plays on the in kick coverage as well. So.
All right, so the next question from Salvatore, he said, if Gruden gets COVID-19, God forbid, who would take the place as head coach?
I have no idea what I mean, I guess it would probably be, Marinelli or Paul Gunther. I'm sure one of the coordinators is like second in command. I don't know what the chain of command is for the Raiders, but I would probably guess it would be one of those guys, unless somebody knows if there's a chain of command written somewhere in public.
I don't know.
Maybe Tom Cable, former head coach.
But yeah, you never know. But if I were to choose one or the other, honestly, I would put Greg Olson over freaking Paul Gunther. Hate on me all you want, but looking at how good our offense is, Greg Olson's gonna make pretty good plays for our offense. So if Gruden goes down, Olsen takes the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I think that it's probably going to be somebody that would have head coaching experience already. And off the top of my head, the only person I can think of is Tom Cable on that staff. So, and he's been a Raiders head coach as well before. So,
Yeah, I'll say it'll have to be somebody offensively, to be, God forbid if something happened to, John Gruden, but I don't see that happen. I think they're going to make sure that that they protect themselves, and hopefully, we'll be good on there as well.
am
But
I
do we
the
all?
only? Oh, sorry, I totally thought you were done. Go ahead, Darren.
No, no, you're good. You're good.
I was going to say, am I the only person that like really liked Tom Cable as the head coach of the Raiders? I mean, there were certainly mediocre teams, and we were kind of budgeting our way to being a playoff team right when Hugh Jackson kind of came in. But man, I thought that we were turning a corner from seriously a dark time in the Raiders with him as head coach. So maybe I'm just kind of it's revisionist history, and I just remember us not sucking as bad then, but I just kind of always liked him as head coach. I know that he had a scuffle and broke some dude's jaw or something like that and had to be exited, but yeah.
Tom Cable is a
like
Raider
that.
guy. He's a Raider guy. He's don't take he takes no BS. He's a Raider guy. He's meant to be with the silver and black. I could not see Tom Cable anywhere else. I just think he just needs to improve the offensive line, get that together, and once we improve our offensive line, we'll be fine. How many sacks and interceptions do we get this year? I think we answered this question before in the show.
We may have, but the quick off the cuff answer I have is it better be more than last year for both. I don't know, I think what did we have last year? Like 33 sacks. Like we got to have more than that. And I don't even know how many interceptions we had. We certainly didn't have anybody from Did we have any from linebackers? I don't even know if we did. We definitely need the linebackers to have a few interceptions. So as long as they're more than last year, that's good. Because even though we have far more sacks last year than we did in 2018, I think that the three of us could have lined up in the DL and gotten 13 sacks. I mean, that was just a pitiful number. So yeah, as long as it's more, I don't know. I mean, I would hope that they would get into the 40s in sacks. I don't know. I mean, I would hope that they would double the interceptions they had last year. I think that with the linebackers that you got, especially Littleton, who's expert at covering, can force a few turnovers by himself. So I would say double your interceptions at least, and a handful more sacks, hopefully.
I think we should double up on both. I think we should double up on interceptions and sacks, because you got to think about it. When you run a defense, your defense starts with the front line. If you can't get to the front line, them corners and safeties not going to be able to hold those receivers for a long period of time. Things start to break down, and things start to, everybody starts to get out of place. So I think it really starts with our defensive line. If we can get to the quarterback before the quarterback throws that ball, if we get that sack, or at least get an incompletion, I am fine by that. But I feel like we need to double up on both, and that's sacks and interceptions, just for my opinion. And think about it, with our defensive line is still young, but we have some veterans as well, and that helps out our back end. And our back end is very younger than any position on the field on the defensive side. So, in my personal opinion, once that defensive line gets to the quarterback, it helps out for the linebackers and it helps out for the corners. So I think we should double up on both stats.
Well, I don't know if we'll double up on sacks.
Double the amount of sacks. Hell, triple the amount of sacks.
Let's just do it. 100 sacks.
I don't know about that, bro.
100 sacks.
Our defense is the best we had in a long time.
It's unproven, though. That's the problem. It's unproven. Yeah. So it could be the best in all time, but it's unproven. We just have to see what happens in those first 4 to 5 weeks, because there's some tough teams on that schedule.
I think if the two rookies from last year continuing, Cleveland Farrell stepping up. I think I made my hot take that kind of rubbed some people the wrong way in Joyner being the most improved player. I think that if Joyner and Cleveland Farrell can both be extremely productive compared to last year. I mean, say what you want about Cleveland Farrell's year last year. I don't really care. But if you want to say that he can be far more productive this year than he was last year, and Joyner can do the same, those two guys just being better players will already pay dividends for the Raiders defense. Little to the side.
That's a good point, because Cleveland Farrell needs to show that we did make the right choice on drafting him over Josh Allen on that draft, because a lot of people say Josh Allen was the choice for us, not Cleveland Farrell. Cleveland Farrell needs to prove all the haters wrong. Now, you saw what he did when he was in Clemson. You saw what he did on that national championship game. So Cleveland Farrell needs to step up. No questions asked.
That's definitely a fact. That's definitely the fact. I think I mean, if we could double up on both, that's fine. But if we could double up on at least one of them, I have no issue with that. Raider for Life said, I think we need 3 to out. I think we need 3 and outs and give the man Carr the ball again. We must score every drop. If not 7, 8, if not a 7-8 field goal, we must play to win, not stats as a team. I can agree with that as well. But at the same token, defense wins championships. So we do need that. So how y'all feel about that, about, what Raiders for Life said?
No, I mean, but I agree, but I also think turnovers is something this defense hasn't been able to do in decades. I don't even remember an opportunistic Raiders defense since maybe the 90s, or maybe 2000s. I don't remember what those early 2000s defenses did as far as turnovers. But how great would it be if we can move the ball at will down the field, actually put the ball in the end zone, and then, we can actually put the ball back in Derek Carr's hands right after he has an 8-minute, 15-play drive that results in a touchdown. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that turns your team into fighting for your life to make the playoffs, into being a threat in the playoffs. And, the Raiders now have guys that might be able to do that. Let's just hope that comes to fruition.
Yeah, that's just how I feel about it. Let me see any more questions. Make sure y'all give us some more questions, y'all. Make sure y'all give us more questions. We need that. We almost at the 150 mark. So you do have any more questions, just let us know. Yeah. Just let us know, y'all. Just let us know. We got like about a couple minutes left. Give me a second here.
Speak to me, chat.
Yeah, speak to us, man. Speak to us, because it's been. I haven't posted a video in 6 days, and I'm finally happy that I was able to do so. If you do have any more questions, you do. But if y'all do want to give y'all final takes, Enrique, if you want to go first, and then you can give your final takes about how you feel about this show. Like, what's your social medias? Let the people know.
What a great show. That's all I can say. But yeah, overall, all I could tell you is, I think I told you this last week. Just win, baby, win.
Just win, baby, indeed. I'm going to go ahead and say that, I love that people come in and discuss stuff. I love the chat. I love the back and forth. I think that some people have some really, some solid takes in here. Some of them I disagree with, but hey, that's why we're Raiders fans, and we can actually have a conversation about things without being extraordinarily polarized. The one thing that I think that so many people are getting sick and tired of on social media is just how you have to be considered a Carr hater, or whatever terminology they want to make up tomorrow about actually liking Derek Carr. I think that it's stupid. to just be that polarizing about it. You can actually be critical of Derek Carr and still think that he can lead the Raiders to the playoffs and more. You can think that Derek Carr is very good and still be bummed when he throws an interception or call him a total idiot fumbling the ball out of the end zone for the second time in 2 seasons. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. So, you don't have to be, it's not just silver or it's not just black. It's not just very good. It's not just very bad. So it's annoying to me that, people are throwing around names about people that even will say anything positive about Derek Carr and the inverse. And, I think that's stupid. I think that we're all fans and we can have a discussion about things. Or maybe we can. I don't know. The internet is pretty dumb, but that's my take, and hopefully it's the last bad take of the day for all of you. And go Raiders!
My final take of this here, um, Raiders, we just gotta, keep doing these shows and keep doing things the right way. We going in the right direction for the actual company, for the organization, for the players. We're all going in the right way. And I feel as though we need to keep going in the right direction, keep it a positive direction. It might be upsetting that we might not have fans in the stands for our first year because of this whole pandemic thing. So it really sucks in that instance. But one thing I can say is that the Raider Nation is one of those type of people. The Raider Nation are the most loyal fans in football. We are the loyal fans in football. I think we it's not a love and hate relationship. We just want to win. We've been so desperate for a championship and so desperate for commitment to excellence, and for us to finally seem like we're going back into what was Al Davis' vision was back in the day, knowing that we got Mayock, and Mayock knows these players, and he does everything well. So that's really my final take. Make sure y'all follow both channels. Make sure y'all follow us on Facebook at the Spotlight Raiders Talk, YouTube Spotlight Raiders Talk, and you do see on Twitter and Instagram right on top of us, Spotlight Raiders Talk and Spotlight RN Talk on Twitter. Thank everyone for tuning in. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. I don't know if Eli will be able to be on tomorrow because I know he could probably be on once a week. I know he's busy during the week, but if Rike gets on here, we'll definitely do that. So thank y'all for tuning in. But anything else, y'all?
Well, actually, if we have a couple more minutes, and I did see a question kind of pop through on the chat. I don't think that this will take us too long, but I'd be interested to know your opinions. It said something, I can't find it right now, but it said something to the fact of with nobody in the stands, will that hurt? In essence, will nobody being in the stands hurt or help the Raiders, I guess, as a team win football games at home? I'm guessing that that's kind of what the question was. So what do you think the effect of nobody being in the stands will be in Las Vegas for the Raiders? Do you think it's going to be a huge dramatic effect, or do you think it's not going to matter that much at all, Enrique?
Honestly, I wouldn't say it'd be a big deal, to be honest, because let's be real here. Even without fans, like for example, on the road, you always see fans going against the Raiders. You've seen that all the time with every sport. It's not just football. So if we're talking about fans like supporting the Raiders, I wouldn't say it's a big deal, but for Vegas, it's gonna be a sad one.
Well, what are your thoughts on that, Darren?
I think it's going to play a big factor. I think it's going to play a big factor because a crowd gets team momentum. It gives them motivation. It gives them riled up to a point they want to make a play to make their fans happy. So not to have any fans in the stands is going to feel different. It's going to be very quiet. It's not going to really be a advantage because, mind you, when it's 3rd down and 5 and we got to get a stop and that crowd is not going wild, it's no advantage. It's no advantage for us or any team that's in the league that's not going to have no fans in the stands. So, I think it's not an advantage at all. It's not a disadvantage until we able to have fans in the stands.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be weird, right? Especially because it's just a brand new place that no one's used to, not the fans, not the team, nobody. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really different. I do think that the players to a T are going to feel a little bit different playing with no fans. It's going to be tangible, to them. They're going to go out and they're not going to feel the energy. But that being said, I guess it's not like the Raiders, with all the support in the world over the last few years or the last 20 years, really dominated at home, So that could also just be said that we had bad teams. But since everyone's in the same boat, I don't think it's as big of a deal, but I think it's going to have some effect for the players for sure. Especially in a place that was expected to be so lit up. A whole other discussion on that is everyone thinks that it's not going to be full of Raiders fans. So maybe this is a first year to luck out, have some success so that next year it's all Raiders fans in the stadiums in 2021. Who knows? But it's certainly going to be different. So I'm interested. I'm actually kind of interested to see how it's going to be, in the preseason for sure.
Let's just pray that the pandemic's over very soon and we'll have fans in attendance.
I have heard that at least on the broadcast that they're thinking of broadcasting crowd noise, and I believe Joe Buck said something that Fox is thinking of doing that. So at least from the viewing public, they're going to hear crowd noise, which seems really weird. They might pump that in to the stadium's sound system. I have no idea how that works.
That's gonna be weird. Like they would just put some random sound effect or something. That would be pretty weird.
Yeah. I mean,
if they could play like some type of music or something on like a third down, I can see that happening. But yeah, I can see that happening too. So I can see them playing some music on third down or something of that nature. But they have to work out something. They have to work out something.
So this is an interesting comment too, which kind of goes with what I said. Who is this? The Push and Do Project. But he says that that will help build the fan base. Vegas locals are Raider haters for whatever reason. That's the first time I've actually heard about that. I don't know if that's something that is known. Being from Philadelphia, I'm not aware. But anybody else from the 702 or Las Vegas or from that area that can support and say that they're all a bunch of Raider haters in Vegas, I was hoping that they would be pretty stoked about the team.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about the season. I'm just mad that we can't have anyone in the stands. That's all I really got about the situation. But thank y'all for tuning in. If they have a loud virtual fan base, that would be pretty different as well. But I do want to thank everyone for tuning in to another Las Vegas Raider Q&A and another show. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all go follow our channels. Make sure you go follow Watts Raider as well. If y'all have not followed Watts Raider, make sure you go follow him as well. I don't know if he has a Facebook page as far as like a fan page, but make sure y'all go follow them. Thank y'all for tuning in. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It's the Spotlight Raiders Talk, and we see y'all in the next show, in the next live stream, or in the next video. Just win, baby.